Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another video. As promised in this one, we're going to jump into my favorite GPP plays of NFL Week 4 here on Draftkings. GPP plays is essentially my favorite tournament plays, more contrarian guys or less owned guys. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this here in just a second. If you have not already, please check out my cash game locks for this week. That was my most recent video posted on Friday morning. Make sure you check that out. Get your 50-50s and double ups entered. Take any advice that you can from that. As always, if you have any questions for me, season-long, DraftKings, FanDuel, any DFS site, leave your comments below. Let me know what the questions are. I'm really good about getting back to those, and I'm happy to give y'all any advice I can. On your way down to the comment section, there is a little thumbs-up button. Make sure you click that. I really appreciate it. The support's been unreal lately, and I do really appreciate any sort of feedback I get. As well as questions and comments that you might have down below. Any constructive criticism is also greatly appreciated. I think going into these videos with a little bit more of a definitive take on certain players is going to be a big benefit for the channel here. Rather than saying all these guys are good, they could all do well. I'm pretty excited about saying, like, these are the guys I want, these are the guys I don't want. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into this video here, starting at the quarterback position. For me this week, my favorite high-priced quarterback for tournaments is going to have to be Patrick Mahomes. I think that he is going to be just under-owned as usual. For the floor he's had 30-plus all 3 weeks this year. I mentioned him really briefly in the cash game video because he's a safe play. At 7,500, you need him to have a 40-point game. You need 40-plus from Patrick Mahomes to win a tournament with him, unless for some reason every other quarterback does painfully average or something like that. At 7,500, though, you're looking for a 40-plus game in Detroit in the Dome, which is very possible for Patrick Mahomes. So he's going to be my favorite kind of high-priced quarterback. My favorite mid to cheap quarterbacks are going to be, I guess the cheapest one actually is going to be Matt Stafford on the other side of that ball. We saw him have a huge game against Arizona. Every quarterback should have a good game against Arizona. Weak defense, one of the worst in the leagues, and the highest pace offense, fastest pace offense in the league. So any quarterback playing them is in a great spot. He had a very average game against the Chargers, and then Philly. I just can't believe he only put up 12 fantasy points against that Philly defense. Not too good there, but hopefully he's in a good bounce back spot here. Most likely to be playing from behind for the early to most of the game, from the early game to most of the game. I think he's going to be having to air that ball out quite a bit. So I do like Matt Stafford, but my favorite GPP quarterback on the slate is actually going to be Baker Mayfield. If we pull him up here real quick, he's just had a horrendous start to the season. He's thrown 5 picks and 3 touchdowns, and that's just not what we're used to seeing from Baker. At the end of last season, he was playing very well, and with all these new weapons, I'm thinking that he will get things going, and this could be a great week for him to do it. He's played 3 middle of the way to, I'd say they're about middle of the way defenses in terms of secondaries at least. He hasn't had a super tough challenge yet, and Baltimore's defense hasn't looked as good as they were last year, or as good as we're used to, considering the Ravens' defense to be. I think he could have a good game here and potentially break out and actually get things rolling there for Cleveland. It's on the road, a divisional game, huge game for them. They need a win here pretty bad, to be honest. So I think Baker's in a great bounce back spot. I want to plug him in. We're going to make a little mock lineup here on the side. And one thing I did want to mention quarterback-wise, though, is Russell Wilson. Even though he's super cashy and chalky, he's playing Arizona. If he puts up another 40-plus point game at 6,100, he's the quarterback to have. He will win you tournaments if he does that again, and he's in a really good spot. I will have shares of Russell Wilson in tournaments. Again, really good cash play as well. But on to running backs, though. The higher price guys, the top 2, Run CMC and Dalvin Cook, neither one of them is going to be as popular as they should be. Dalvin Cook playing, in my opinion, unarguably the best defense in the National Football League, the Bears, and they're playing in Soldier Field. The weather, I think, is supposed to be subpar, though. So I think there's a chance of rain, I believe, in Chicago. So for that reason, I would keep an eye on it, because if it's raining, I don't want any Dalvin Cook anywhere. If it turns out to be decent weather, I could actually see playing Dalvin. I don't care what defense he's playing against. If he's getting that volume that he has been, the 20 carry volume, and then the targets have been great. They've just been getting more targets every game. As soon as they get him involved in the passing game a little bit more, he's going to be a deadly weapon. But then over here with Run CMC against a middle-of-the-way Houston Texans defense, 8,800 for Christian McCaffrey is fair. Probably still a little underpriced in my opinion. We saw this atrocious floor that none of us ever thought Christian McCaffrey could have. So I just don't see how you cannot want to play him almost every single week. He's just a safe play with a floor that's apparently lower than we thought, but I mean realistically he has a high floor. At 8,800 though, on a slate like this, a main slate, you're hoping for at least 100 yards receiving or 100 yards rushing. You need more than just 100 from scrimmage and a touchdown. You need 100 plus the bonus for rushing or receiving and a touchdown. And I think he's in a good spot to do that this week. But my favorite running backs for me personally, number one is going to be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is playing Atlanta. That's really all I have to say about that. I like to play running backs that play Atlanta. They eat Atlanta. Atlanta's run defense is just not good. They haven't been good for a while. We did it all last season, just targeting any running back playing against Atlanta. We saw him have a great week 1 against Cleveland in that blowout, and then week 2 dropped a little bit against Indy, and then week 3 though, Thursday Night Football, I believe it was, Jags-Titans, that was a surprising one to me. The Jags have been decent against the run this year, but with that Jags secondary, and Mariota, being at QB, I kind of expected more from Derrick Henry. So I think this is a really, really good time for him to bounce back against a weak Atlanta front. Hopefully have a monster game here. I think he's a great play too because I don't think he's going to be super high owned. Coming down a little bit more, if you think Detroit stays neck and neck with Kansas City, which they very well could, I think Kerryon Johnson is going to break out one of these weeks. I don't want to miss it when it happens because he's going to be an absolute animal. They have to start throwing the ball to him more. They have to throw at least, we saw it against the Chargers, 3 targets. They need to throw at least 3 to 5 balls to him every single game. And the volume was there against Philly. Philly's run defense, stout. That's all I got to say about their run defense. Their run defense is the real deal. I'm not surprised he wasn't very efficient against them. I think he is in a great spot against Kansas City, though. I will have some shares of Kerryon. Coming down a little cheaper, though, there's 2 guys down here I wanted to talk about, and it's going to be the Washington Redskins running backs, Chris Thompson and Adrian Peterson. Now, Chris Thompson, safer play, higher owned, higher floor. Going to get 10, 8, 5 targets, averaging 7.5, 8 targets a game. I think that he is the safer play. I just want to be clear about that. But Adrian Peterson, though, if you saw the primetime Monday night game, Chicago and Washington, Adrian Peterson, I think they were inside the 7 in the fourth quarter. The Redskins were, as they started to actually put some points on the board. Adrian Peterson was on the sidelines. I think it was like first down inside the 7, and Christian Thompson was on the field. And he's a future Hall of Famer. And forget all that. He just looked pissed that he was on the sidelines. Either he's going to get a lot more usage this week because of that, because he's so unhappy with the volume he's been getting, or Christian Thompson is going to continue leading the backfield there in Washington. But I think Adrian Peterson is worth a risk this week at 4,300 against the Giants. The game should stay very, very competitive, I think. The Giants have that weak secondary, and that game's overall, it's pretty chalky. Danny Dimes, Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, the F1 McLaurin. It's a pretty chalky game for a lot of people this week. So I don't think anybody's really going to be on AP like that, though. But the reason we're going 63 and 43 at running back is actually so that when we get over here to wide receiver, we can just go like this. We can just go ahead and first thing we're going to do is just click in Julio Jones. Julio Jones has scored a touchdown in 7 straight games now, I believe, 6 or 7. He's too cheap. I don't know what happened to the wide receiver pricing, but he should be over 8,000. This is full PPR. He gets 11, 10, 9 targets. Going to get 10 plus this week, I think, against Tennessee at home in the Dome. Too cheap. 7,800 for Julio. I think he's a great tournament play. Not going to be as high owned as he should be. I mentioned Keenan Allen. Great cash game play. The volume's there. Don't hate him for tournaments either because he could do what he did last week every single week of the year if he gets 15 plus targets. My next favorite tournament wide receiver, though, is actually going to be right here, OBJ. He did not have a monster game against the Rams. I kind of was looking to see him expose Marcus Peters a little bit. Didn't quite do that, but If he has one play like he did against the Jets where he just breaks that one long 89-yarder, is that going to happen this week? Probably not. Could he break a 50-yarder, a 40-yarder, any sort of a 30-plus yard touchdown is probably going to put him at 100-plus yards and a touchdown for this week. I think he's a great play at 7,300. I think the Browns are on the road in a divisional matchup in a great bounce-back spot. I think this is one of the sneakiest games to stack. You don't even have to run it back with any of the Baltimore guys. We don't know who's going to do good on Baltimore. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown gets these targets and didn't produce last week. Mark Andrews didn't produce last week. We just don't really know who's going to be getting all the looks there. I think Willie Snead could still make something out of the offense there in Baltimore. But I think that Baker and OBJ are probably my favorite tournament stack. And then still want to pay up a little bit here again at the wide receiver spot. Mike Evans actually in a pretty good spot here. A lot of people saw his nutty performance last week, and he only went up 500 from that, which I think is pretty fair actually because of these first two games and how bad they were. This could be a total outlier. He could keep repeating this all year long for all we know. I think he's in a good spot this week. I don't hate him as another high-priced contrarian wide receiver. I do want to jump down a little bit here, though, because I want to pay down for a wide receiver that has absolutely gutted the first three games of the season. But look at the volume. 7, 7, 9. Jarvis Landry getting targets. Pretty low ADOT for the most part. Low average depth of throw. I don't see him, catching these long bombs or anything like that. But the yards after the catch can be there. And I think this is a good week for him to kind of make something happen. Because there was something that he said to Freddie Kitchens after last week's game saying, Coach, we're going to get things rolling or something. And then Freddie Kitchens said something like, we're going to get you more involved, Jarvis, something like that. Freddie Kitchens is calling the plays. If he's saying that straight to Jarvis's face, I think Jarvis Landry's in a good spot here. I think these Cleveland Browns, Baker, OBJ, and Landry are just it's a good stack to make, super contrarian, and could it pay off? Could pay off huge. So I do want shares of them. I think that this is a pretty good core here, too, for your positional players and your QB. And then coming here to tight end, though, this is where I probably am just going to eat some chalk. Let's plug in a defense real quick. That way we can, play with our remaining salary. These top three defenses should easily be the highest owned defenses on the slate. And then if you come down here, though, all the way to the bottom, my favorite contrarian or GPP defense this week is actually going to be the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Bucks they've played some average at best offenses, at best average, I would say. But after allowing 32 points last week to Danny Dimes, they would still put up 8 points. Was that good for a 2,900 defense? Not at all. You don't want 8 points from a 2,900 defense. I don't want that. I want the defense that's going to put up 30 points, and I'll pay $4,000 for them. But this week, if I can pay 2,100 for the Bucks D and they get me 8 points, I would be thrilled. I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. They're playing on the road in LA, playing against the Rams. I think that they are just too cheap for what they've done this year. Their run defense is legit. Todd Gurley should be shut down, which he's had a slow start to the year. I get it. Even Malcolm Brown. The run defense should just be stout as it has been. And then the secondary can potentially get chewed up, kind of like Danny Dimes did, but I'm not super impressed with what I've seen from the Rams so far. Cooper Kupp, stud, don't get me wrong, but I'm not super impressed by what I've seen from that offense. I think the Bucs defense is a decent, dice roll there for your defense and saving some salary, to say the least. Coming here to tight end, though, this is where I'm either going to eat chalk or be weird. It's going to be one of the two. I'm not quite sure where my head's at yet, to be honest. If we go Evan Ingram or Will Dissly, those are probably going to be the highest two owned tight ends on the slate. I prefer Will Dissly for 2,100 less, and I'm okay with eating that chalk in tournaments, cash games. The Arizona Cardinals have yet to realize that there's actually a position on the other team called tight ends, and if you have noticed, they've given up, I think, 100 plus and a touchdown to every tight end they've played this year. So I think Will Dissly's in a good spot. I'm okay with just plugging him in, especially now that Nick Vannett got traded. He should see almost 100% of the tight end targets. And then I think they got Luke Wilson back too. I think he was with the Lions for a little bit. Actually, let's see. I'm curious now. Luke Wilson. Oh, wait, what? I thought Luke Wilson had. Oh, maybe he's not on any team right now. That's weird. Luke. Yep. Nope. Don't even see him. But in your flex, so that's going to leave us 7,700. And then this is where it's just like I might plug in this lineup 3 times. One with D-Hop, one with Keenan Allen, and then one with Mike Evans or Travis Kelce. Doesn't matter. I think DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best play for this lineup because essentially if we just reorder this real quick and go to your wide receivers, plug in D-Hop there and then put Jarvis in the flex. Just when you look at those wide receivers all standing next to each other, you got Julio, Odell, and DeAndre Hopkins. If Derrick Henry has one of his Derrick Henry games and Adrian Peterson can put up 100+ in a touchdown, you are looking good. If you're right on the Will Dissly chalk, you're looking amazing. If Baker is connecting with both of his wide receivers, then we're really talking. And then if the Bucs defense can put up that 5-sack, maybe a pick or something like that sort of a game, I don't care if they allow 30 points. I'm just looking for 6+ points out of them at 2,100. It just makes sense to me. You're playing a lot of these high-priced wide receivers that can all break the slate, and if for any reason they all just happen to go off, the value's there, and it's definitely going to pay off big time. But that's pretty much going to do it for my GPP takes for Week 4 here on DraftKings. If y'all have any questions for me, like I said at the start of the video, always leave them in the comment section below. I'm happy to get back to them. Again, if you have not seen my Cash Locks video, that was posted Friday morning. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you get all my cash takes, and let's make some money this week. The link in the description will be there for our website over here, dfs-squid.com. Make sure you get over there, get registered. This is the last week of free lineups. You have access to my personal player pools, my lineups, everything like that. And then more importantly, you'll of course follow me on Twitter, because if you have any sort of a question, it's good to leave them in the comments below. But if it's 20 minutes before lock and you're like, if injury news comes out or something like that, DM me, tweet me. It doesn't matter. I will get back to you almost instantly. I always have my phone on me. I'm always happy to help with those things. So let's make some money this week, and good luck to everybody. And I can't wait to recap this video and see how these takes did.